Marvel Strike Force is not the same game that it was only a few short years ago. It's changed remarkably in character progression and in-game strategy. How do we know this? Well, I have my account that I've been playing since the beginning, plus last year and this year, I started a new account so you can see the progression from that angle as well. With all those points in mind, we're going to compare what we've seen in the past. It shows us what's happening in the game presently, and that should give us a good clue, a good idea into what Marvel Strike Force is trying to grow into when it comes to the future of this game. Let's go ahead and take a look. Most teams as are introduced in the game at present follow this format. There are 3 newer members, and then there are 2 older reworked members. Automatically, this gives every team that comes into the game flexibility. You have individuals that you can plug and play. Maybe you don't need them at present. You can adjust the team to be faster, stronger, hit harder, increase crit rate, assists, multiple attacks, things of that nature. That's all up to you as the player if you understand how the team works. Your core members of the team probably stay the same. But for example, if we take a look at Mercs for Money here, we have Deathpool, who belongs on the new Warriors team. She doesn't have a ton of operability with the Mercs for Money. She hits hard, she's been reworked, she's good again. So you could still take her and use her on the old team as some people are doing in Cosmic Crucible. You don't have to do it that way if you don't want to, but it gives you an option if you are an experienced player and you understand what the different characters are for and how they work. If you are a newer player, you just know that you have a nice, solid, strong team to work with. It also makes what is old new again. So as we take a look at the Orcus team, for example, Scientist Supreme. Scientist Supreme, she was on our account way back in the beginning, year 1 on the AIM team. She has found pretty much no use since then. Her kit was really weird. It didn't really work with the game. It was a good idea, but it didn't really work with the game in practice. So now we have a new team, the Orcus team, that is designed to work around her. What does this do for the game? Well, it makes, again, what's old new again. It makes what's old meta. So let's say you quit the game, you come back years later. There no doubt are characters that you have available that can help you right now in the game. If you are a new player, you're picking up random bits and pieces, and as you come in, as your account evolves, you have good characters to really get you off to a great start, no matter where you are in the game. And again, for those of us who are experienced players, you see the value of those individuals. You again can use them in real time, and if you remember why and how their kit functions, you know how to plug them into certain situations and really get the most out of those characters. On this account, we reached what we would call the end game. We reached level 100 and we were able to contribute in about 8 months. Now that's different from how it was in the past. In the past, it was about a year that you would get to the end game. You say, well, Gideon, that's just a couple months difference. It's not really much of a difference. But that's not the case. In the past, it would take you a year to just start getting your feet into where you could jump into the end game. Now you can do that much sooner, right? When you hit about level 90, right? 85, you have enough teams, enough characters that you can start dabbling into what you would call end game content. And so doing, you're putting yourself in line with the rest of the normal Marvel Strike Force community. I'm not saying that you can compete with everyone in the game, but you're starting to get into the phase where everything else that is happening in the game is happening to you, and you're just moving right along with the normal in-game economy. So the catch-up mechanic in that regard is working perfectly. When it comes to the in-game economy, the numbers show that, again, if you're playing appropriately at an end-game phase, you have more than enough resources to power up every character that comes into your account, plus a few others. So the bottlenecks have largely been removed. This is a picture for something I was trying to bring to the fore last year. So I would repeatedly get stuck on my account from last year. When you would hit the blue gear bottleneck, as I said, you would have to stop. You would have to continually farm blue gear, and that would impede your progress. Right? The amount of stuff that we're getting now, most of us don't even notice it. We're saying, hey, we got these millions of orbs, but everybody doesn't have that. And it would even sometimes get to the point where every character that you needed, you would have to go through this blue gear phase, and that slowed you down. That is also something that looks like it has largely been eliminated. It happened a lot in 2023, but I have not noticed it in 2024. To kind of illustrate what's going on, we have our absolute A-Force here on my baby account. As you can see, I got most of the members unlocked. The difficulty I'm having is just leveling them up, right? I need more training materials. Mathematically, we already know that there is enough training materials in the game to do this. So why am I struggling? Because my alliance is not pushing endgame content. They're not doing bad, right? It's just you need to really you need to be with a group of people that are really trying to get to the end of everything. Then the economy will take care of itself. And that's a challenge, right? Everybody doesn't want to play a super hardcore pace. But if you do, or if you're just an elder game player, you've been playing for a while, you're just naturally moving to the end of the meta, you'll have the resources to keep all your characters powered up and leveled up. If you don't have that, then it just takes a little bit of time. We're able to manage, but it's just going to take a little bit more time. To illustrate that, here's my Endgame account, right? I have more gold than I know what to do with. I got 115 million sitting up there. I got all these orbs just hanging out, right? We have plenty of gold. Same with the training materials. I have almost 200 training orbs just hanging out, right? So those bottlenecks have largely been eliminated. They all used to be a problem, but now they're not. Chasing the end game gear seems to be where the bottleneck, if you want to call it that, is. I got Ironheart there on the left as an older character. She kind of needs more gear. I don't have enough. I got to go farm that. Very interesting. The newer characters, the game seems to set you up so that you have what you need. When the newer characters make it into your account, you can just bring them to the fore automatically. That's what I've been experiencing so far. I don't know if that's just me or just how the dice is rolled. But so far, when a character comes in, I can generally bring them up to 19 right away. Purple ISO. Purple ISO is the newest form of progression. So again, that just kind of comes trickling into the account naturally. But if you want to, make that go faster because you're trying to meet a goal, like people are trying to get to Odin or things of that nature, then you need to use your time or money to focus on getting that resource. And that is fine. So if the bottlenecks in the game are not training materials and they're not gold, they're just really end-game progression, I think that is a marvelous change for Marvel Strike Force. So let's switch gears. We'll look at the baby account. Again, when it comes to gold especially, flush with gold. Have more gold than I know what to do with, right? I have more than enough. I could power up pretty much any character in the game. The thing that's holding me back is training materials. I got a big fat donut there. I don't have any, okay? We know that they've put training materials into the game at all kinds of different points to try to help get that better. We know the end game economy shows you have enough. So you need to get to where that end game economy is. That means that right now, at least at this phase, before things change, time and money are in reality the only bottlenecks in Marvel Strike Force. If you're playing the game where you're supposed to, wherever cadence they supposedly set for the end game, you have what you need. It just takes time. If you want to go faster than that, then it's going to cost you money, right? So if time and money are the only true bottlenecks, then that is the foundation for a great game. To make sure you're progressing properly, you need to be with like-minded individuals. If you want to be hardcore, you need to be with hardcore people. If you're going to be spending money and you're trying to push the envelope, those are the kind of people you need to be with. Legendary characters. The philosophy around legendary characters has changed immensely in Marvel Strike Force, right? Especially when it comes to these older ones, they're just giving them to you. They're putting a lot of these characters in play for the regular game, so they don't mind handing you these older legendary characters, and you can get them very easily. Actually, when it comes to the end game ones, once you're in a position that you're playing in the end game, the unlock of the legendary character is relatively easy. Okay, now getting more power, getting more stars on them, that might be a different thing, but getting the unlock is relatively easy. So that's a change from Marvel Strike Force, right? First time you can get them, you don't need to wait 2 times to get them. First time you can typically get that character, and they're making sure that the difference in power between a 4-star character, 0 reds, with a 7-star character, tons of reds, is amazingly different. That way, the new person still gets to participate in the process, they still feel rewarded and accomplished, and the end game player really gets something that demonstrates the power of their roster. Now, obviously that changes immensely when we start talking about mythic characters. Interestingly enough, I think they are all attainable. This is my roster, right? This is what I got or did not get, did not unlock Mephisto, Apocalypse, Odin, and Super Skrull. I probably could have, but it would take a pivot in how I was developing my account, which is fine, right? Which is fine. Look around, listen, keep your ear to the ground. There are tons of people that got all of those characters inside of their first year of Marvel Strike Force. It just means that you need a little bit of a pivot. Now, one of the points I want to bring out is GideonXL here down. He's in my account. He said that he did not get any of those characters. He just started Dark Dimension 6, but he doesn't have the gold or the training materials to build up the teams needed. And he's behind on tier 4 ability materials. Tier 4s can be difficult. Tier 4s can be difficult. And again, we didn't talk at length about this, but I do want to bring out GideonXL. He came to our alliance from an alliance that wasn't right. They weren't trying to advance in the game. They were trying to get everybody to get to a certain place in the raids before they moved on to the next one. And you're stunting your growth by doing that. You're stunting your growth by doing that. Just push the envelope, see how far you can get. Back down if you need to. That's how, or else you're right. It hurts your account overall when that happens. So then you don't have the resources that you need to keep up with the end game as your account continues to progress. That's what GideonXL was experiencing, and so he came over and joined us in the Guardians of No Cap. Another member of the Alliance, Zephyr, he did get the Super Scroll, and he did get Apocalypse. He's halfway, he said, to Mephisto and Odin. The difference here is he spent a little bit of money, not much. He said 40 bucks throughout the year is what he spent. Okay, so those $40, I'm assuming here, helped with that pivot, right? Because I know on my account, I didn't have the resources to push those individuals that would be necessary to get those things. So maybe for a couple extra dollars, you can get a couple extra resources, and that's just enough of a kick to put you in position to get those items, right? Get those characters if that's what you want to do. That doesn't sound unreasonable if that's something that you want to do. Contributing to the economy is the in-game stores. So right now we got the Snow Globe store, we had the Turkey store before that. If these things continue, if they have these specialty stores, then that really takes the pressure off the old currencies, right? We think about, well, we've got all these old currencies, they're not doing anything, they're just piling up on our account. So if you have these new stores, then again, it takes the pressure off that, and we don't have to really worry about that so much if that's something that's going to continue. Otherwise, the older stores, they just continue to do what they do, which is fine, right? You put a new character that's farmable into that store, and it's just understood that once that happens, that the free-to-play community, they have more than enough resources to go ahead and max that character out, which is fine. That's part of the progression system. Then you don't have to be worried overly about what's going on in the stores. The Battle World store, we'll have to see what happens when Battle World comes back. We know it's on pause right now. Endgame Thanos, that was the only concern that we had about where we're going to get him, and it looks like they gifted him to the community recently. Something that really flew under the radar is the implementation of the new technology in Marvel Strike Force. It seems that they're trying to get out from under that old spaghetti code. They want to be able to expand the game, do more things, right? We've seen some of that stuff visually with characters and things like that. The visuals are just better, right? Things that are happening in the background are just better. So it all looks cosmetic, but what we're not paying attention to is what's going on under the hood. This was necessary for them to be able to even build Battle World. So it means that they plan on expanding the game, and they put the time and money in to lay the foundation to do that, meaning they have more stuff that they want to be coming to Marvel Strike Force in the future. I think that's really exciting. So these are my Annihilators for the most part. I got Shadow King. We're talking about Arena. So I was able to make it to 129, right? So not as good as I was able to do the year before that, but we see the Arena method really has not changed. There's a foundational team. Then there's individuals you start to pull out and insert newer super strong characters like Odin, things of that nature. So obviously that's fine. That hasn't changed. It's still good. One of the changes that was made in the Arena system has to do with, again, that 200 power cores you see highlighted there. So you need about 200 in your daily activities to get the stuff done the game's asking you to do, right? If you're supposed to refresh campaign energy, things of that nature, it usually costs about 200 power cores in order to do that. So they made it so the top 500 now in Arena, the top 500 ranked players in every Arena shard are going to get 200 cores. Okay, so it takes that stress away, and then anything above that, right? Anything above that you get just increases your account. So you're going to get 200 right here just from participating in Arena. all the other stuff, all the other cores you get just from playing throughout the course of the day stack on top of that, meaning that the majority of the player base should have an increase in the amount of power cores that they're able to accumulate throughout the day, meaning you now have flexibility to use that for something else. Another adjustment we saw this year was how the raids, how individuals interact with the raids was adjusted. They really lowered the barrier to entry when it came to raids. For example, our main raid, the Orcus Raid, right? So it has a main setup for if you have a full alliance, and they have an adjusted setup for if you do not have a full alliance, right? Or if you just want to be a more casual alliance, but still want to participate in the end game content. That way, right? That's what they want. They want people to be able to touch the end game content. Spotlight Raid. You can even participate in the Spotlight Raid without having the teams that you're supposed to have, right? The first couple sections are just free for all, so you can score some kind of points in a Spotlight Raid without having the Spotlight characters. There was a problem last year when we came to the Incursion Raid. That was the main raid, and the rules of the Incursion Raid crippled the teams that were not the newest meta team. Okay, so if you didn't have the appropriate team, the rules crippled that. What that did is if you weren't, again, at the tip of the spear, right? If you weren't with the biggest, baddest, and the strongest, and if you didn't have the newest teams all across the board, you got stuck and you could not participate in the raids, right? And as we talked about before, you can't really go back and just build older characters, not big groupings of teams of older characters. You were stuck. So now with the Orcus Raid, what they've done is they've simply given bonuses to the new team. The team that you're supposed to use gets the bonus, and that's going to help push people to the end, the harder, the most difficult section of that raid. But even if you don't have that, you can still have an older team or put together some type of makeshift team that you can compete in the lower areas of that same raid, right? In the lower difficulty, of that same raid. That way, it's not pushing people out of the end game, right? That's what you want people to touch. You want everybody to try to be somewhat doing the same style of content. That's where the exchange of ideas take place, and people are interested in the meta teams and meta characters. But if they can't do that, if they can't participate, they lose interest. In the case of the Spotlight Raid, once again, the first couple sections are free for all. You can do what you want. So if you can just pass those, you get rewarded at the 10% level, and you're getting end game rewards. Not as much as 100%, not as much as super hard difficulty, but again, it encourages people to reach out for the end game stuff and not try to do old things. If you can't at all get into the Spotlight Raid, you're just not strong enough. They restructured the old school Greek raids. Right now, we just have this Greek raid, and it has traditional nodes, city, cosmic, things of that nature. So everybody should have characters that fall into one of those branches. You're not meant to do that. You don't get good rewards for doing that. The point is to get you into the Spotlight Raid. The Spotlight Raid is a huge adjustment, as we just said, from the previous Greek raids. For example, they told us we need we need Alpha Flight. That's fine. We can still put power onto them. We can keep it strong. We assume they're going to be what's going to be standing there in the first half of the raid. And then they told us that they're replacing the Spider Society with a new team. Right? Well, presumably that'll be in the back half of the raid. That's good. See, what used to happen in the past is they would just label the raids with certain teams, certain characters, right? So you say Pimtech, right? If you don't know who Pimtech is, look that up. So when that raid would come around, if you didn't have that old team, you couldn't finish the raid. But now, the way the Spotlight Raid works, the characters and the teams will rotate, meaning they'll always be fresh and new, and you won't ever truly get behind. Let's talk a little bit about Cosmic Crucible. So in 2024, my endgame record was 56-38. So a winning record. So winning record we had this year, we had a winning record in 2023. And I think, again, that's positive for the game. It shows that if you are trying, you can win, right? That doesn't mean you're going to dominate, but you can win. And anybody can do it, right? It just means you have to take some time to learn the game, right? You have to study it a little bit, have some fun, right? Trying to make sure you're having fun. As long as you're participating in the game, you're learning about the rules and regs, enjoying yourself, you can win. If you haven't taken a look at this video here from Wapu, you definitely want to do that, right? So he talks to Saw Owner, who ranked #1 in the last season of Cosmic Crucible. Guy got some great insight. He's got some great insight. And if you were to look at the overall power rankings, right? If you look at the top 20 strongest accounts in Marvel Strike Force, Saw owner is not on there. He's not on there. So I would encourage you to listen to this interview. It really shows that this part of the game is very well balanced, and people who, again, take time, they can participate, they can compete, and they can win. So here's our Alliance War record for this year, 2024, 89 and 58. 89 and 58. Guardians and No Cap, thank you guys. Thank you guys for that, because you have to have a mature roster to participate in Alliance War, right? You don't just do war, and it's alliance wide, so everybody has to contribute. Again, if you're in an alliance that's active and people want to participate, you can win and you can get results. Last year, 2023, 62 and 56. We're still a winning record, not as by great a margin, but it's still a winning record. The reason why Alliance War is so difficult is because, again, you need that mature roster, right? You have teams that are up to 2 years old that are still involved in the Alliance War meta. You're not going to get that in a short period of time, but if you have teamwork and dedication, you can still win. Battle World. So with this alliance, whatever I have difficulty 1 here, but whatever the entry level difficulty is, whatever that was, we were not able to get past that. Okay. So we did really well in war. So we're expanding our roster, but Battle World really needed an expansive roster, a mature roster to score. So we'll have to see what happens when it comes back, what it looks like. I'm not slamming the game mode. That's not what I'm saying. The newest content should be the most challenging. And that's where, if you are a new player, you're going to struggle. As always, when it comes to the internet, there's people that really just want to make a name for themselves. So they say some of the craziest things. So misinformation can be a problem. And that's just the internet in general. And Marvel Strike Force is going to be no different. So what I got here is a representation of the real housewives of Marvel Strike Force. So I would just encourage you, if you're a new player, seasoned, whatever, find people that you trust. Find people that you trust. They give you good information. Sometimes we're going to have to stay away from the sensational. It might not be real, right? They tell us the game's dying every day. The game's come up on 7 years old. The game is not dying. There's a lot of good information out there. There's a lot of good creators that are funny, that are upbeat, that'll leave you feeling good, that want to teach you about the game. I just encourage people to seek those individuals out, right? Make your choices to who that is. Go seek those individuals out and continue to have fun on your Marvel Strike Force journey. This is the current roster for Guardians of No Cap. A lot of good players here. Appreciate you guys taking the time talking, helping other people coming up, the new people, really giving good advice. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this experiment with me and allow me to see what happens when you start a new account, how far you can take it. The people around you is what makes it happen. Marvel Strike Force is laying the foundation for something good. The whole initiation into the game has been smoothed out to really push you into the end game. So I'm assuming that in 2025, the foundation is laid for something bigger, badder, and better.